Thanks for staying with us on The Real Story. Well, last week, Republicans stood on the steps of the Capitol and called on lawmakers to act. That's after a hit and run in New Britain that left a man dead. Police finding out the car was stolen from Hartford, eventually arresting the alleged driver of that car, who police say was a 17-year-old who had been arrested 13 times in the last several years. And that's just one example of a crime involving our youth. The calls on the state Capitol steps were followed by a bipartisan meeting of House leaders. So we want to break down a bit more of the issue and find out more about that bipartisan meeting with ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Republican State Representative Craig Fishbein of Wallingford, chair of the Judiciary Committee, Democratic State Representative Stephen Staffstrom, and who also represents Bridgeport. And we want to get a police perspective. So we're going to bring in Wolcott's Police Chief Edward Stevens. Thank you all three for being here this morning.
Thank you.
All right, so Representative Fishbein, Representative Staffstrom, you were both in this bipartisan meeting with leaders, which is great that right after that, you all came together to decide to have a discussion. So tell me how that went. Let's start with you, Representative Fishbein.
I thought it went well. There was a lot of discussion about the outcry that is manifested in our call for a special session. I think there was a lot of points that were brought up during there that not a lot of people knew about. You mentioned the Wolcott incident. Recently, it was brought to our attention that in Stamford, they've arrested a 14-year-old for murder. And that case, under the present statutes, cannot be transferred to the adult court. It would have to be adjudicated in juvenile court. And that case, should that young man be convicted, would actually get erased 4 years after he turns 18, which is very troubling. There's a lot of things that have to be looked at. And we came away with some bullet points that we're going to be meeting again next week. And I think it was a positive thing. I would have hoped that the Senate Democrats were also part of that. Unfortunately, they were not. And, we have yet to see whether or not they're going to engage in the discussion.
Yeah, we know that Senator Martin Looney, wrote a scathing email blast, press release after your talking on the steps. So Representative Staffstrom, tell us what you thought about the meeting. Is there common ground between House Republicans and House Democrats?
Yeah, I think it was a very productive meeting. I mean, certainly Representative Fishbein and I have worked together on a number of thorny issues over the years. And, there's certainly a lot of mutual respect, I think, between the caucuses and the folks around the table discussing. I think from our perspective, we wanted to make clear that we are willing to look at some changes to our laws, but this will be a scalpel approach and not a sledgehammer approach to how we look at our criminal justice process and system. I think Connecticut really should be proud of the fact that we are recognized nationally as a leader in being smart on crime as opposed to being tough on crime. And it's important to keep in perspective that particularly car thefts really have fallen dramatically. The rate of car thefts, or the number of car thefts in Connecticut, has fallen dramatically from the mid-90s to where we are today. In fact, 2019 was the lowest number of car thefts in Connecticut in at least 50 years. And there has certainly been an uptick and certainly some tragic instances as has been reported. But we need to look at this holistically, and we need to look at certainly the context with which we make changes to our laws. But I do think there are some areas where there's some loopholes in our laws, and there are some places we could certainly flush out our statutes a little bit better, and those are the types of reforms we're looking at.
Chief Stevens, I want to bring you in now. Putting aside politics, you're the one on the ground seeing what's going on. And Wolcott's had some high-profile incidents lately. We had the senior center that was trashed by two youths. We did a story with you on that where you kind of showed us what happened there. And then we had a car theft, including a child inside that car, back in May, which is a really scary incident. You ended up finding the car a little while later, the child asleep in the back seat, unharmed from what you could tell, thank goodness. But that involved, according to you, from what you were telling me, possibly a juvenile as well. So tell me what your officers are seeing on the ground.
Oh, first of all, with that car theft that was taken from one of our area, 24-hour stores, there were 2 children inside of that car. Luckily, one jumped, well, not luckily, one of them who had a broken leg with a cast on jumped out, and the girl was taken in the car, unbeknownst to the people who, the juvenile, was a juvenile who stole the car. Because the arrest we made is of a 17-year-old. And like I said, we are gathering evidence to arrest the other kids that were involved. Luckily, nothing happened. And what I mean by that is, you have to remember, a lot of these car thefts are done by kids that have not had any driving training. They don't have licenses. They become a menace on the road where, as we know, just happened in New Britain, it can cost people's lives. In Wolcott, the auto thefts are up. They're not down. Auto thefts are definitely up. We have not seen nothing like it lately, and they're more brazen, taking them, again, while they're running, a lot of them, with keys in a lot of them, right from stores or homes. That's what our officers are seeing a lot of. They're taking them out of driveways. What happens is a group of kids will go into an area, they search the cars. That's how it all started, searching for belongings, sunglasses, money, things like that, computers. Then if they found car keys, they would take the whole car. About 2 years ago in Wolcott, a car was stolen. 3 people drove away in a car with the other car that brought them there, following them. They got into Waterbury on Wolcott Road. They were racing. Well, the stolen car from Wolcott flipped over. There were 3 children in there. And not by children, I mean under 18. 2 of them died. They died in that car. The one that was driving jumped out, jumped in the other car. They drove off. They left those 2 kids dead in the street. That's the seriousness of this. These kids, I'm not only concerned about the victims of the car thefts. I'm concerned about these, kids that are getting hurt themselves. You had, like in Ridgefield, the one girl who got shot while she was trying to steal a car. We have to protect them too. The changes we're asking for is so everyone is protected. And I do want to applaud the, for that meeting they had yesterday. At least they're trying to work on a solution to this problem where everybody's happy. And from a police department, we want to we're sworn to protect people, to keep people safe. And that's what we try to do.
Chief, what kind of tools do you need? Like, what are you seeing right now that you don't have?
A lot of times these kids, we're saying kids, they're not 9, 10, 11-year-old kids. We're talking, 16, 17, 8-year-old kids because they had raised the juvenile age. It used to be you're 18, you're an adult. When you were 16, you'd get arrested. There was more that could happen to you. And I don't mean locking people up. I'm not saying just lock kids up. That's not what I'm saying. But we need something that's going to deter these kids from doing crimes. Whether it's another program, you don't necessarily have to put them in jail at all. And I don't mean first-time offenders. I'm talking after 2, 3 times stealing a car. There has to be repercussions. I have a 4-year-old grandson. He knows right from wrong. He does something wrong, he's reprimanded, and he doesn't do it again. We need to show that to some of these kids. And again, it's a small handful of kids in the state that are doing these. There's groups, small groups. It's not every juvenile that's doing this. It's a small group. We have to reach out and help them. We have to get them the help. Whether it's through, like I said, different programs, that's fine. But after CJTS closed up, it didn't seem like anything was in place. We have in our town here a group home where it was set up to take troubled kids, and what I mean by troubled, from homes where they were abused mentally, physically. They had issues in their own homes and they couldn't stay there, so they would go into these homes. After the Juvenile Training School closed up, DCF had nowhere else to send some of these kids, the kids that were getting arrested and in trouble. They were now putting them in a home, which we have in Wolcott, where the 2 kids that vandalized the senior center were at. Mm-hmm. They're putting them in with these other kids that have problems. And that's not a good environment. We need somewhere where we can keep everybody safe.
Representative Staffstrom, what are you hearing from Democrats? What's the appetite out there? I was listening to sound from the governor from last week, and he says he's willing to look at it, and said he wasn't against a special session, but that it would be on lawmakers to call a special session. I know Representative Ritter had kind of said it didn't necessarily, if I remember, need to happen in a special session. Tell me what your guys' stance is on that.
Yeah, so I actually think I agree with a lot of what the chief just said, which, if we are talking about changes that are not necessarily going to lead to a kid who's arrested for a car being incarcerated for a first offense, if there's mutual agreement that we should not be going back to kind of the 90s era, early 2000s era of lock them up, then I think we can make a lot of progress. I think the chief is right that a lot of this is about getting kids into the programs and getting the services they need and earlier on in the process. So right now, I think it's important for folks to recognize that if a juvenile is arrested for stealing a car, it's not that there are no consequences for that. The kid actually has to go into, once they're adjudicated delinquent, once they're adjudicated to have committed that crime, because obviously there's due process here. But if the kid is actually convicted of stealing the car, then they go through a 22-class program and an evaluation, and there's monitoring. What we need to do is get some of that intervention, some of that assessment to kids at the time of arrest or shortly after the time of arrest, so that they don't commit subsequent offenses before their actual court date, before they are actually adjudicated delinquent, their case goes to trial, so to speak. Because we know from statistics that the kids who maybe steal a car, have a court date, months later and are actually adjudicated delinquent, go through this program, the recidivism rate is really low for those kids. The issue is the kids that commit multiple offenses in a short period of time after their first arrest.
Yeah.
And I think there is certainly, from my caucus's perspective, I think there's certainly willingness to look at how we get intervention earlier on.
Representative Fishbein, I'm going to give you the last word here because we only have about 30 seconds left. But does that sound like something that Republicans can get behind?
Absolutely, and I hope to get there. We did run an amendment recently that called for some of these changes. Unfortunately, only 4 Democrats voted for it, and that amendment did fail. So we have been pushing for this, and hopefully we get to the goal line more than just a scalpel, of course.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming on The Real Story. Productive conversation. Want to continue it. The three of you always welcome on The Real Story to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Take care.
All right, that does it for us on The Real Story. If you want to watch these segments again, head to fox61.com or download the Fox 61 app and watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61. Have a great morning.